Hello, great people. The leader of the UK Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, has again cast aspersion on Nigerian government. Kemi is of Nigerian ancestry, but she's notorious at casting repeated aspersion on Nigerian government. Kemi has not cut short expectation as she asserts that Nigerian government is terrible and always ruining the life of Nigerians other than making it better. In a moment, I'll leave you to hear from Kemi Badenoch herself. Then when we come back, we'll be assessing the implication of Kemi Badenoch's statement and also Kemi's repeated assertion that Nigeria is a poor country. Is Nigeria a poor country? Is there a single story? What is a single story? What is the implication of a single story? What is the role of Britain in the situation that Nigeria is today? What is the untold story? What is Kemi supposed to be saying, but she's not saying? What is Nigerian government supposed to be saying, but is also not saying? What is the action that the aides of the president should be taking, but they are not taking? We'll be discussing this and a whole lot more on this episode with a short talk on politics and happenings in the polity, Dr. Omosholadeji. First, let us hear from Kemi Badenoch, then we'll come back for the discussion as highlighted. Let's hear from her. Let's hear.
I grew up in a poor country, and I watched my relatively wealthy family become poorer and poorer and poorer, despite working harder and harder as their money disappeared with inflation. I came back to the UK, age 16, with my father's last £100 in the hope of a better life. So I have lived with the consequences of terrible governments that destroy lives, and I never, ever want that to happen here.
There you have it. You just heard from the leader of the UK Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. As her name implies, Kemi is of Nigerian ancestry. Now, let us analyze the associated issues as regards her statement. First, you would observe that Kemi Badenoch is obsessed with Nigeria. She's negatively obsessed with Nigeria in the sense that she usually uses Nigeria as a point of marketing, in the sense that she's good at talking about Nigeria negatively to the Western world, to so much so that the Western world will now be thinking that there's nothing positive about Nigeria, that there's nothing good about Nigeria, that in fact everything about Nigeria could be about poverty, could be about insecurity, could be all about negativity. But is that the case? No, that's not the case. Nigeria has its challenges, but Nigeria is not all about negativity. So the Kemi Badenoch, the way she is repeatedly spewing negativity about Nigeria, I think is something that should be of concern to the Nigerian presidency, because as much as the presidency or the president tries out to market Nigeria, Kemi Badenoch is on the global stage, and every word that comes out of her mouth as regards Nigeria is always demarketing the country. And I don't know what people in the presidency, the aides of the president, what they are doing to counter our story, to counter our narrative, because there are a lot of ways that they can counter our narrative, and I'll be sharing some of it. I'll be sharing some of it with you, and I hope that some of the dull brains that is in Nigerian presidency will be able to know that they are not doing their job correctly. Don't misquote me. There are some brilliant people in the presidency, and also there are some dull brains, because if you look at the way they've handled this Kemi Badenoch story, especially as regards Nigeria being poor, and as regards the circumstance that Nigeria has found itself today, and the role that Britain has played in Nigeria, the way the aides of the president has handled it, definitely they have not done well in that regard. And that brings me to what I call the danger of a single story. Kemi Badenoch has repeatedly asserted that Nigeria is poor. That is not correct. But before I talk about why Nigeria is not poor as asserted by Kemi Badenoch, let us talk about the danger of a single story. What is a single story? That means that when something happens and it is only one thing that is being said repeatedly, that single story that is being told over time will become the truth, will be taken as the truth, and will be the one single and final truth. So if Kemi Badenoch is portraying Nigeria as a country of negativity, as a country of poverty and hopelessness, and she's not saying the good side of Nigeria, she is not selling the positive side of Nigeria, definitely she is selling a single story. And Nigeria is not all about negativity. There are some positivity. So if she's selling the single story and you are not coming up with the counter narrative, definitely over time, that our story becomes the fact about Nigeria, especially to some of these Western nations that some of their citizens have not visited Nigeria before, and they may never visit Nigeria till they die. So when they hear Kemi Badenoch repeat, imagine you are a Briton and you are hearing Kemi Badenoch repeatedly speak about Nigeria, and all she has to say is that Nigeria is poor, Nigerians are wretched. Definitely, you would take it that Nigeria is a poor country. So, the single story is not a good idea, and that is why the other side of the story must be told, which I will do in a moment. First, is Nigeria a poor country? No, Nigeria is not a poor country by any stretch. Nigeria is rich. It is Nigerians that are poor. So if Nigeria is not a poor country, if Nigeria has enormous human and natural resources, and Nigerians are poor, then you need to look at it. Why are Nigerians poor? And one of the reasons why Nigerians are poor is lack of good governance, is corruption. But then it is two different things for you to say Nigeria is a poor country. No, Nigeria has oil, Nigeria has gold, Nigeria has over 200 natural resources. Nigeria is a great nation. But then why is Nigeria in the way, why is Nigeria in the situation that it is now? Why are Nigerians languishing in anguish? It is because of poor leadership. It is because of corruption. We also cannot rule out the impact of colonialism, the impact of slave trade, imperialism, neocolonialism. We can't rule out the effect of these things, and that is why Nigerians are poor. But Nigeria itself is not a poor country, but Nigerians are largely poor. So that brings us to the effect of the internal and external factors. The internal factors is the role of the Nigerian government, the Nigerian leadership, while the external factors is that of the role of colonialism, imperialism, slave trade, which we cannot rule out the hands of Britain, which Britain is responsible for. So if you are now a leader of a party in Britain and you are not saying Nigeria is poor, and you are not selling the story of the role of Britain in making Nigeria poor, and the Nigerian presidency and those that are the aides and sympathizers of Bola Tinubu just keep quiet, definitely that single story that you are selling at the end of the day will become the only story that will be in the Western circle as regards Nigeria. So I expect that the people in the presidency, they would know what they call the danger of a single story, and they would have been telling the story correctly in such a way that the story of Kemi Badenoch would not fly, even if it is to publish articles in the Western media, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, to counter Kemi Badenoch. It is necessary, because Kemi Badenoch is repeatedly telling this story and nothing is being done. Now, Kemi Badenoch is seeking reform so that UK will not become Nigeria. But she has forgotten that UK contributed to making Nigeria what it is today. You are seeking reform. That, okay, you don't want UK to become like Nigeria. You don't want, inflation. You don't want UK to be impoverished. But you are forgetting that it is the wealth of Nigeria and other nations that Britain colonized that make Britain a rich country. You have forgotten that the exploitation of Britain contributed to making Nigeria the situation that it finds itself today, coupled with bad leadership. So that single story of Kemi Badenoch is something that is very concerning, because Kemi Badenoch is attributing Nigeria's poverty, underdevelopment, to the internal factors, but she has failed. She has been silent on the external factors. It is now left for the aides of Bola Tinubu, for the Nigerian presidency or sympathizers of the government to now begin to sell the other side, which is the external factor. But I can't do their job for them, because I'm not an aide to the president. I'm just trying to tell them what they are supposed to do. Then they can go and build in on it, elaborate it, and do the right thing they are supposed to do. That is what they are appointed for. It is not just to be roaring like lion, to be roaring like lion, to be roaring like thunder against real and imaginary enemies. It is not just to be talking. When opposition talk, oh, you will say everything. You will blast them. You will do the. But when Kemi Badenoch talks, do you lack the intellectualism and intellect for you to be able to address the single story that she's selling about Nigeria? So that intellectual sophistry seems to be missing, unfortunately, in the Nigerian presidency. Or maybe they are just looking away, and that itself it's wrong, because you cannot look away from something that you are supposed to focus enormously on. So the internal factors that Kemi Badenoch is selling, the Nigerian government should also try to begin to sell the external factors that are responsible for Nigeria's poverty, hardship, and underdevelopment. We can't rule out the fact that Britain exploitation made Nigeria poor. And Britain exploitation, the exploitation of Britain in African nations cannot be overruled. And if Britain is to pay compensation, if that money comes back into Nigeria, definitely Nigeria would be better off if we have good leaders to manage the wealth. Now, I need to say something to Kemi Badenoch. Kemi Badenoch should realize that she can never be white. That is the truth. No matter how hard she tries to be white, the truth is that she cannot be white. She is of black skin, she is of Nigerian ancestry, and God do not give you power to change your ancestry. So whether you like it or not, you will always be of that Nigerian ancestry. So she cannot be white than the white. And as much as she's trying to be to copy the white supremacists and try to use Nigeria as a bait, maybe she can, eventually become the prime minister in the future. Well, she's making a mistake, because no matter what she does, she is still not qualified like the white man, even if the white man is not as brilliant as her. That is the truth. We can't rule that out. And she should realize that at the end of the day, regardless of anything, home is home. Nobody saw it coming in the last 10 years that there can be a war between Ukraine and Russia. So what if tomorrow a war breaks out between UK and another country? Don't say it can happen. Anything can happen. Life changes. Do you foresee that COVID could happen and the whole world will be shut down based on the pandemic? Nobody saw it coming. So what if UK goes into a war with another country tomorrow, and instead of dying, Kemi Badenoch will be forced to flee to Nigeria, just as Nigerians that have already settled down, that have already married, that have already bought homes, that are living their life fine in Ukraine, decide to jet back to Nigeria when the war broke out. So if she finds herself in such a situation, will Nigeria be good enough for her based on all these things that she's saying? Because you can't rule out the home effect. And that's why I will tell her to seek other means of marketing herself, to seek other means of strategizing to become whatever she wants to be, and not be quick at every single opportunity, any little opportunity, to be speaking about Nigeria negatively. What she's saying as regards the government of Nigeria is not wrong in the true sense of it. Nigerian government could be terrible. Nigerian government, they usually make Nigeria poor. They don't better their lives. But at the same time, Kemi Badenoch should not tell the single story. As she's talking about the internal factors, which is the role of successive Nigerian government in making Nigeria the way it is today, she should also be kind enough to be telling us the role of Britain in the role that Britain played in the poverty that Nigeria is experiencing, the role of Britain in the underdevelopment of the third world nation. She should also be talking about the global trade terms as regards the global north and the global south. The Western nations are called the global north, while the African nations, the developing nations, or if you like, the peripheral nations, are called the global south. These nations have unequal, or if you like, unbalanced trade terms with some of these Western countries. Kemi Badenoch is not speaking about that, and that is a single story. And as I've said before, there is danger in letting a single story to fly. So the buck stop at the table of the aides of the president, for them to begin to speak the other narrative and not let the story about Nigeria in the Western world be a single story. It's been an interesting time with you on this episode of Politics with Dr. Omoshola Deji. Dr. Deji is a political scientist with a PhD in political science. See you in my next video. I love you all sincerely.